testing. JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. August 26th, 2021. Just going to be really quick. We have about 19 minutes to the open. First, I'll talk about NTES, the China ADRs. Quick tidbit about PTON. They report earnings after the close today. ULTA, which reported a monster beat and raise after the close yesterday. I'll talk really quick about that. And then Jackson Hole, which is tomorrow. It's going to be virtual, so I think Powell's on at 10 o'clock. I'm still trying to find a link. I don't know if it's going to be a publicly accessible link. Is it going to be broadcast everywhere? I forget if that's the case or it's kind of closed doors kind of thing. So, and the other thing is sometimes they come out with prepared remarks. So maybe Powell will have his prepared remarks out before he does his speech at 10, which ideally you would want before the market opens, I guess. So it's not crazy volatility. So just really quick, first NTES. I was looking on Monday for a potential bounce into China stocks. They've been destroyed, all these China regulatory concerns. They keep putting their hands in different aspects of the market, whether it be with the for-profit education sector. Then they went to the gaming sector, to kind of put some hints there. There's going to be some regulation or more regulation there. And just the entire tech space as a whole, everybody's on edge. What else is going to happen? How's it going to impact the growth? What does that do for companies like Tencent and Alibaba and so on and so forth? But at some point there's bounces here. So when I got kind of lucky for China stocks to bounce overnight, NTES gapped higher, was able to close them out for, I guess, close to 500%. Then yesterday it started to break $90. Then when I see the premiums evaporate, the 92 strikes are tough. If it gets to 88 or 87, I'm going to lose a lot of profit. So I lock some more in. I just have a couple heading into today. If it can't hold, let's say 88.50 or so, I'll probably close the rest and then I'll revisit. But I remember back, and China stocks have had situations like this before. 2015 was a big issue. China had its first big China default, bond debt defaults. China companies never defaulted on debt. It just was unheard of. So that was some of the sell-off back in, I think it was summer 2015. We had some limit down scenarios in August. And then, I don't know if it was 2013 or 2014, finally the U.S. started to address the fact that all these China ADRs can have unaudited financials. Go to the SEC filings, and the first terms up at the top says unaudited financials. And there's a big four accounting firms that are allowed to do the numbers for these companies in China, but they're still unaudited. And that was some of the issue, about the delisting and the scrutiny that's come on China stocks as of the last couple of years, because it's really not competitively fair for other companies in the U.S. who have very stringent requirements in order to be a publicly traded company. And then you have these China ADR stocks that just have unaudited financials. It's kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. But we've had these situations before, so supposedly they were going to, they came down with these restrictions back in, I don't know if it was 2013. There was concerns that some of these stocks would get delisted, and this is back when Baidu had already done a 7-for-1 split, but it went from 120 to like 100 on that day, and some of these other China stocks sold off. And then obviously you can see what the stock has done since. It's done quite well, right? So whether this is a buying opportunity for some of these China stocks or not, there's going to be bounces and playable bounces and playable dips. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to play those. Yeah, why? I think it was 2013 as well. I think it was Weibo, Sina, all these companies that are listed on U.S. exchanges said, wait a second, my company's valuation on the U.S. exchanges is completely dislocated to our fundamentals, and so much so that we can buy it back and take it private and then relist it back in China or whatever the case may be. So there was rumors of that. I think Sina did it once. There was rumors that it was going to go private because it just doesn't make sense. But I think Baidu had some whispers on their conference call one time because they think, we're not getting a fair shake on the U.S. stock exchange. Stock exchanges are not valuing our stock properly. We can just buy it back and relist. But who knows how that all plays out. But why? Some news this morning. That's been on a tear since its earnings last week. I think it was in the 40s, all the way up to 50. Was it 63 right now? I didn't even have it on my ticker. 64. And YY is one of those names that people are calling fraudulent, right? Some big short pieces. I don't know if it's Muddy Waters is on it too, calling it a big fraud. Very easy, a lot easier, I guess there's unaudited financials opens an opportunity for people to be able to pick at your numbers pretty easily, right? Because they're not audited. And in some cases not fair for companies who are actually following the law and reporting accurate numbers, but then it allows companies like Luck and Coffee to kind of skirt the regulations. Anyway, that's NetEase. A Peloton, just watching it, and as Peloton continues to head higher the last 2 days, the premiums haven't really gone too crazy on the calls. My hope was Monday or Tuesday get some calls played for premium build into its earnings after the close today, lock some in, and then hold risk free into the report. Didn't get a chance to do that, and here it is. It's 1670 in the pre-market. I think any kind of surprise, any beat and raise. I mean, the stock's into the mid 120s, possibly higher. Any concerns around supply? So some of the issues with the company recently is worrying that they don't have enough supply to meet the demand. Then you have the recall issues, and you have the consumer protection. I forgot what was the Consumer Product Protection Board. I forget what the acronym is for it, but they came out with the issues with the treadmill. So some clarity on the treadmill, their Tread Plus, the Bike Plus, and all these other supply side issues. If they can spin in a positive light, they have a beat and a raise. I mean, the stock should be in the mid 120s, if not higher. I put on the watch list too. There's a concern if it's just inline numbers, still strong report, but not a beat and raise. Then you have all these bears who've been short the name since the 20s, or at least touting that it's a piece of garbage stock since the 20s. They'll pounce. They'll smell blood. The stock will trade under $100. So a little tough to kind of wrap my head around the risk reward there. So I'll probably sit on the sidelines and wait till tomorrow. So that's Peloton. ULTA, I put on the watch list this morning. And ULTA, great story. You have to think that as people start taking the mask off, they're going to need to have products to make sure that they present themselves well in public, as well as all these Zoom meetings, right? Everybody, you would think that some of these clothing stores would have not done well during the pandemic because people just had to show their face on Zoom and not worry about wearing pants and shoes and things like that. But now as people have to, have face-to-face meetings, masks are not a requirement anymore. You would think that bodes well for ULTA. And I don't know if it was the earnings last one or the one before. I thought they would have better results. But this one was a blowout quarter, a beat and raise. You have all these analysts upgrading the stock. But then I start looking around and some of these earnings on these specialty retailers, like I put Shoe Carnival. Shoe Carnival had a phenomenal earnings report yesterday. It was a tremendous beat and raise, and the stock sold off 8%. And then you have Burlington this morning, another strong report. They mentioned some supply issues that's going to hurt their margins, so I think that's some of the reason why it's down on the pre-market, but still a nice beat and raise. And then you have ULTA here at 411, 412. And there's been times over the years where I've played ULTA right after the bell, and there's usually a wide swing. So I'm not going to sit here and say it goes under 390. For all I know, it could rocket to 450 after all these analysts upgrade the stock and all this bullish sentiment around it. But in the back of my head, I think there's an opportunity. I think there might be profit taking after the open. So if I can get 390 puts, maybe 30 cents or so, maybe I'll put in some pre-market orders to try and get fills. I may nibble on some of those, maybe even 385s. Just because they'll probably expire worthless, but if they don't and the stock sells off, those are going to go 30 cents to $10. And that's, it's kind of the point of doing the leverage with options, right? You only need one of those trades to go right to make up for, if it's a 10 bagger, obviously 8 or 9 trades before that. So that's kind of the thought process there on ULTA. Who else? It's similar like Disney last week, right? Was it last week or the week before? Disney had phenomenal results. Their Disney Plus numbers were through the roof. Of course, the parks are booming. And ESPN is actually doing well. ESPN used to be a huge drag on Disney. And then the stock gaps up and it just melted for the rest of the day. And not for any other reason. I think people are just taking some profits. But not saying a similar thing happens here with ULTA. But if it does, I think it's an opportunity to make some nice money on the put side. And then last but not least, here's Jackson Hole. And gosh, every Fed minutes, every Fed meeting, every speech that Powell makes, whether it be at some kind of school or what have you, it's always this catalyst. Powell's speaking today could cause some market volatility. And here's Jackson Hole. Jackson Hole has a history of being one of those events that a Fed chair changes policy. And you had it with Ben Bernanke, and didn't have it so much with Yellen. But here's an opportunity for maybe he's going to put a stamp on his chairmanship and come out with some comments that will help paint the picture on how he plans to taper the $120 billion in bond purchases they're making every month, and then kind of be able to paint a picture around interest rates. Rates can remain low. This doesn't have any impact on what's going on there. So if he's able to spin that in a positive light and sound somewhat dovish, maybe the market does okay. If not, we're right at the upper Bollinger Band on a SPY, so maybe there's a little day or two of consolidation before things get, the ship gets righted, and then we're heading into a historically weak period for stocks, right? September, October, usually those months usually don't, breed confidence especially if there's any kind of weakness, but. So we'll have to see. I don't, like I said last week, I don't put my bear suit on. We've seen the S&Ps up 5 days in a row, so I'm not going to sit here and say it can't continue to head higher. I just think there might be an opportunity. Visa, MasterCard are right at their moving averages. I was looking this morning, and not that I'm going to sit here and get puts on these names. I think other factors are playing into those names as well, which would be disruption from Square and PayPal and all these other processors that do not require, let's see here. So this is MasterCard, right? So take a look right at the 200-day moving average. I think those are names that have opportunities for put hedges if the market does find a little weakness tomorrow or even in the afternoon today. So that's kind of what I'll be looking. I'm not going to be aggressive on either side because there's always opportunities. And that's it. What else did I have here? Oh, Splunk, SPLK. I was looking to get some calls. Just the risk reward was tough. I think all the way up to 175, 180. They actually had a decent quarter. And I think the issue here this morning with SPLK is not that they didn't have a great beat and they raised guidances. I think the analysts are kind of they're not believing it so much. I guess you would say that they're worried that their execution is not going to roll over into next quarter because there's been issues before, and that's why Splunk is down from 250 is because they kind of lost, investors and analysts lost faith in the company, similar to what happened to Alteryx, AYX. Another one of those names I was trying to play for calls on a stock that's just been destroyed. And then they posted earnings at the start of August. And again, similar thing. It's at some point, maybe they'll regain the confidence of these investors and analysts. But for now, it's kind of like a stay away stock. Who knows what Splunk? It was a great quarter. Lots of upgrades too. So maybe it soars right out of the gate and hits 170. So I'll be watching if it holds like 159 and it gets over into 160. Maybe I'll see what those 170s are for a kind of lotto trade. I think that's it. 5 minutes to the open, folks. I'll try and get back on later. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.